Hello, hello, hello. No, I'm going to tell him. We just did a whole intro and we weren't live.
Yeah.
So this
It
is the
was great,
second
you
run.
guys. You should have seen it. Oh, it was so badass, but you never
Yeah, so
will.
if we make
Jay,
mistakes
take it
in this
away.
one, we can imagine that we did a really stellar one because it was phenomenal. It was a great way to start the year. Technical faults on second win, who'd have thought? Hello, welcome to Dev Heads, the podcast focused on the ins, outs, and goings on in game development with hosts experienced in indie, double, and AAA. But today I'm only joined by one of my co-hosts is Mikey. Hello, Mikey.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, and we don't have Tina today, unfortunately, because Tina is away, traveling the world with her family, as people do on the holidays. But instead, we have a guest that we've been waiting for a long time, which is Aherys from Beautiful Light. How you doing, Aherys?
Fine, and you?
Hey, I'm doing good, bud. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, bud. So, for our listeners who do not know who you are or not familiar with your work, can you give us an intro on what you're about, like your background, where you came from, and the game you're working on?
Sure. So my name is Aherys. I'm at the head of Deep World Studio. We are behind the game Beautiful Light, who is not released yet. We are a small indie team, about 25 people. We get a bit now, thanks to the trailer and a lot of Steam wishlist and stuff like this. So the game we are doing is like an horror extraction shooter with asymmetrical PvP, so a bit weird. It's kinda unique, and I think also it's why we get some visibility about this. And for my background, so before I was in the military, I'm French, as you can sound. So in France we have military. It's kinda special. We call it gendarmerie. I did 2 years into it. Then I switched to a master degree in IT. I was also a professional on Rainbow Six Siege, if you know it in esports. So some people know me from this. And then I start my studio at the end of my degrees. Sorry, and 6 years later, here we go. I'm here.
Hell yeah!
And
dude.
maybe you could tell us a little more about your role on the team specifically, because when I hear about that background, I think, wow, this guy probably has the ambition to do whatever. But maybe talk about the specifics, like what's it like being the game director?
Oh, so we are indie. So indie mean like you have a whole fucking range thing to do and job. So I'm leading the team mostly in collaboration with the producer, but I'm also the main developers. So coding stuff. I do a lot of artistic also, but not so more as we have way better artists than what I am right now. I'm writing the scenario of the game, handling a lot of stuff. But when I say this, it can sound like I'm the man behind the game. But in fact, this is like the whole team who is working hard at this. So not only me. And I'm more the guy who is making everybody going on the same line.
Yeah,
Right.
Keeping that focus in the
Yes.
same perspective, because
Yes.
a lot of the times, and we were talking about this before, Aherys, before we started, the idea of indie being very boots on the ground, being very, we've got to make things move. You had this beautiful analogy of describing it being like on a pirate ship, which was like, I wished we said it here because it was so, it resonated with me so much. Like the idea of, if you're on a ship and you're in a battle, which I think game development is a persistent battle. When you're on the pirate ship and the battle's going, you don't wait for the rigger to do his job, right? If it needs to get done, you do it and you make these things happen. And for me, in indie, when we need to get that model in to test out these animations, right? We're doing that. Like I'll rig it myself. I'll do all this, right? I'm not going to wait. Do you find that you see that a lot in AA, Mikey?
Yeah,
Kind of boots on the ground?
definitely.
Yeah.
Because I feel like AA, like we sometimes say, and I still believe, AA is largely often just it's indie, but we just have more money and more people.
100%.
And it's, I mean, all the terms are soft and ill-defined and non-specific anyway. Yeah. But I do feel like, in the environment, like working on Insurgency, for sure, there was a lot of throughout that series, there was a lot of people wearing lots of hats, but also just okay, this part doesn't isn't getting done, and it's not because somebody's like missing it. It's like there's no time. I'll just grab it, or somebody just take that. So yeah, for sure. I imagine like Tina's not here to speak too much to it. I have like a little bit of experience with AAA, but I imagine I think it helps. Or excuse me, I think it happens a lot in AAA too, just not as often, right? Game development is largely just like making something work, and often just people step in and they just do it themselves.
Yeah, like you said, not to speak for Tina, but the idea, I would probably say in AAA it probably happens a lot within specific departments, like within side art and sound and stuff like that, rather than hopping from completely different backgrounds like you do in indie. Like we were speaking, I think it was the last episode we did where we was talking about that's how people progress, right? This is how people can move into different fields of game dev by doing this stuff and figuring out what they enjoy, what they excel at, and stuff like that. So I love the pirate ship analogy. I think it's absolutely spot on. So
Yeah.
Aherys, what I think it's really good for our listeners to understand. You have such a creative like stepping into game dev, right? Like we were saying in our fake run that game dev, people kind of think of game dev as this weird nebulous thing where these masters are sat in chairs just hammering away on keyboards and that's all they've ever done and that's all they ever will do. But from my experience and from hearing your journey into game dev, a lot of people transition into game dev because they found a love for games or how they were made and then make that transition. For you, what was the point where you were like, right, I want to make a game? Like, have you always wanted to make one, or was there like a moment for you?
Always.
Always.
Like, got two goals in my life. The first one was to integrate an intervention group in gendarmerie. I've mostly failed. But the second one, after I realized gendarmerie was not my thing really, was doing video games. It was the true way I want in my life. The thing is, I got lucky because right now we are in 2025, and the tool we have when you are indie with Unreal Engine 5, Unity, Godot, all those engine. I mean, everybody can start making games.
Oh yeah.
It's don't make me lie. It's like super hard to make a video game. But now you don't need like a super sized team to do something great. You have the tool for it, and even if you are not a very good programmer or something like this, so it's like super accessible.
Yeah.
And the cool thing, if it wasn't the case, I would not be like Beautiful Light. My very first project, it was like straight out of the studios. It was even my studio project, you know. So
at school, are you saying? Like you were working on?
Yes. I started on my last years on school in 2019. So I was alone on the start for the four first years. So of Beautiful Light, I was alone on it. Then after the team joined me and stuff like this, we got funding and stuff like that. But so you can definitely do it, and this is a very cool thing because I don't know if we all agree, but video game is mostly art.
Yes.
Exactly for me. Exactly if, like a book, like a movie, like anything when you want to share a story, share visual, or making people feel something. And engine and stuff like this, it's just a tool, you know. And the fact this is now super accessible, it's like absolutely insane.
It's allowing us to see more art.
As tough as the industry has been lately, which we all are aware of and always talk about and should talk about and all that, some of the nice things about it are, I mean, I've said this before, like a lot of people are getting laid off. A lot of people are looking for work. At least if you get cast back into the away from the stability of employment, at least the tools are easy enough to learn, to give yourself new skills, to find work somewhere else, or to start your own studio and do all these things. And at least now, as an industry for the consumers, as tough as it can be for us, like people are getting a lot of different, interesting, well-made games that are able to punch really high above the weight that they used to, like operate, make great games with smaller teams. Just because of the tool sets now, as you just said. Yeah, fully agree. Yeah. I think it is an art too, of course. I think we'd all agree there. Some games are less artistic than others, and we can tell. But yeah, it's a medium for the communication of feelings, etc., and all the other definitions of art, for sure.
Yeah, after there's like a lot of way to see video games. Of course, if you are making a racing game, like I don't know, Gran Turismo, it's more like a simulation rather than art or something like this. But it's also the way I enjoy games. So it's why I define this as art, because there is a whole part of video game who is really art, like doing a story and stuff like this, a universe basically. But even in game like this, I think you can find some of this notion.
I could tell that you had this perspective when you recommended I play Fear and Hunger, because that game has to be art to endure. You're like, oh my god, this hurts so much, but it's art, so I have to keep going.
See, the operative word there is hurt, right? Because I think defining art is like anything. For me, it's anything that makes you feel. If it makes you feel anger, it's art. If it makes you feel anxious, it's a form of art, right? And I think games as a medium have such a power to make people feel more than anything else. But yeah, like I think we live in an amazing age, like you guys have said. But just to reiterate, I taught game dev for a couple of years at university, and I've seen the industry and the way game education works change so rapidly within those years for the better, right? I don't think you should have to pay thousands upon thousands of dollars to educate yourself to pursue a career want.
Educate, yes.
Yeah, I want people to be able to have the facilities to teach themselves and progress. And nowadays with Unreal Engine, Unity, Godot and stuff like that, there's such a wealth of tutorials and areas for you to dip your toes in. For you, Aherys, I'd love to hear about what it was like to go from working on this project by yourself, and then getting a team and acquiring funding, because that is like people really want to do that, and I'd love to hear how you went about that and what that journey was like for you.
It was a total mess.
It always is. It always is.
Yeah, it's like super hard to lead a team. But the thing is, I got lucky. So when I start my project, I was like, fuck it, I will do it alone. I don't need anybody. I just need a friend, Akaranir, who is actually the senior lead, the lead level designer of the team.
Beautiful.
And I just need this guy, so just wanted this guy. He joined later, so that's cool. And it's a very old friend. But the thing is, I didn't want any money, any funding, external funding, and stuff like this. And I was living minimal wage on France, what we call RSA. And it was fine, to be honest. Then I got someone who is pretty known in France sport. With his name is Patrice. He's now under the nickname of Latour, who is able to finance the project. And this guy come to see me and say, "Hey, I will fund your game." And on the very start, I was like, no, really. And then we talk a lot.
Why not?
Like this.
Why were you hesitant? Was it too much responsibility for being such an early stage?
Yeah, there's a lot of things like this. Like there's responsibilities. There's someone who give money to your project. You can fail. There is a fact also. You will share your what you will win with the game with someone else. You can be. I was mostly afraid of someone who is taking creativity away from the project.
Yeah.
Like when you work. And then I talk a lot with this guy, and this guy found us. So I'm kinda super lucky. Because for people who don't know, video game like Beautiful Light cost million basically, and not one, multiple million, and way above for AA and stuff like this. And once you got money, then you can start to have a team. And so this is like a bit a sad one, because if there's people who is I want to start a studio, but I don't have millions, so how I do it? But there is plenty other way to fund your project. Right now, as you mentioned, Mike, it's pretty hard because a publisher doesn't want to provide any fund for the years 2024 and 2025, but it will start soon to come back. So, once this is done, a thing is like adding people to your project doesn't necessarily add the speed of the production, because you need to manage them, you need to coordinate yourself, you need to have the tools also to work together, like what we call CI on the technical side, but also having a source control manager, I mean, everything where people can collaborate on the same project, avoiding bugs and stuff like this. But for artists, it's mostly okay. And when you start with programmer and stuff like this start to be a huge issue, because programming need to be really focused with your team. But what we have done with DeepWorld is mostly to think this company a bit like a modding team. I am come from modding community. I've done some modding when I was younger. And so mostly is free in the project. Like we choose people for their artistic vision. We check if this is matching with the project. And we all collaborate around the project. So the guy who is doing animation can come on the gameplay channel. We work with Discord basically and say, we don't like this, or I don't like this, could we change this? Suggest an idea and stuff like this. We have meeting with the team when everybody talk. And this is not like you just do the animation and you just do the sound and I'm the leader and I direct everything. This is not at all how it works. So of course we have supervisor and stuff like this, like some leaders, but some artists, like I can speak, a good example is Mooney, who is now on Arma community because she made a lot of cool stuff for this. But Mooney is our character artist. So she's doing all the piece of stuff of the characters, and she's totally free. Like she doesn't even ask what I need to do. Do I
free?
need to
you mean like autonomous, right? She's doing
autonomous.
whatever she
Total.
needs to.
Yeah.
Okay.
I totally trust her artistic vision. She's super good in this. And so basically she just said, okay, I want a contract to do this, and this. And I say, yes. And this is a dream. When you are working in the team, to have people autonomous like this, it's like perfect dream, because whatever happen, she will do a great job. And this is mostly the same for most of the people who is in DeepWorld, and people who is not already under this way to work. Is just a matter of time until they really start to understand what is the artistic vision of the project. So we have no art director.
You don't have an art director.
Yeah, but we on the project we have zero art direction basically. It's just like you can think a bit about like SCP when people collaborate, to build a story and stuff like this. The only thing is the scenario of the game, who is written by myself, but Mooney did some addition on it, like a lot. But this is mostly everything. So it's a very specific way to work.
It's working for you, right? Go ahead, Jay.
It's work for us, yes. But I think there's some AAA developer who is listening to this, they are like, what?
I love that.
How this can even work?
Love that.
Well, they can't take risks like you guys, so.
There's a lot of things. I mean, we never come with DeepWorld in the idea to revolutionize and say, hey, we know how to do game, because we don't. Basically, this is our first project, but we wanted to do the thing a bit differently. To experiment it. We are gamer, first of all, like other developers, but we see something like communication and stuff like this with frustrating when you are on the player side, and this is thing we want to change. So we was like, okay, let's try something. If it doesn't work, but at least we try.
Yeah. It reminds me of so for anyone, I know a lot of people in chat will be like this. It reminds me of like Dungeons and Dragons. Like Dungeons and Dragons can be ran in multiple ways. The two most common are where the game master, the DM, is kind of railroading the story. They have an idea in the head of the story and how it progresses and how they want it to go, and they will do anything they can to keep it on that track. They just want that to happen. Even if the players are like, we want to do this, they will manufacture a reason for why they can't, and then they have to do what they want. You can view that as like, I'm sure, mad respect to the dude, but potentially working with Kojima is probably like that. You do not divert from Kojima's vision, right? That's it. But another way of doing it is viewing game like Dungeons and Dragons as a collaborative storytelling experience. you have an idea as the dungeon master of what you want the story to be, but the player might do something that takes the story in a completely different direction, but is way cooler than what you thought. And then you let it run like that. And Aherys, it sounds like the way you're running the studio is you're putting the trust in your artists, your fellow devs, to allow them to take their thing and push it in the direction that they kind of see fit within the context of your, world and creative vision. But I guess for the hardest part, like you were saying, is making sure that they fit with your project, right? As long as they understand the overall vision.
I have a bad take on this.
Yeah.
If you see this thing like one guy behind the whole project, for me, this is not good because you are stuck in your own vision. We have some example in the industry. The guy behind Star Citizen, Todd. I don't have the name.
You say Star Citizen or
no, Star Citizen.
Starfield. Todd Howard.
Starfield, yeah. Todd Howard,
Todd
yes.
Howard, yeah.
When you read report about how it worked and why Starfield was not good as people was accepting and stuff like this. This is mostly because when you listen developer, it's because this guy put his vision above everything and doesn't listen collaborator. I'm not in the studio. Maybe I'm wrong. But I can imagine this is a thing. Maybe for a movie it worked like this, but a video game is like really. Did you see Dune 2?
Yeah, man.
Great movie. Great movie, absolutely. Fighting scene is total shit, right? And I think Denis Villeneuve is like super great for a lot of things, but in a lot of his movie outside Sicario, he's not great for action. Let's not lie. And when you are not good in something, go hire someone you trust to do the thing like this.
Oh yeah.
And a video game for me is a bit like this. Like if I hire someone, an artist, and I close him like in my own vision, he will never do a great job. He will try to fit my vision of thing. But if I hire someone, it's because this guy impressed me. And so once you understand what is the global vision of the project and do your thing, do your magic, you will be better than me because I'm not a character artist, for example. I'm not a sound designer and stuff like this. So of course, sometimes I come and I say, maybe this, I would prefer like this. And we have a talk about it. But this is the thing, you need to talk about things. And sometimes we have huge discussion about how we're going to do something. Sometimes even we get angry together. Like I want the thing to be like this and I want to do the thing like this. And this is super annoying. This is like office politics. But at least at the end, we have something where everybody is mostly pleased and who is cool, I guess. And this is my way to see the thing. Maybe not the best, but this is my way to do the thing. And it's also super cool because it's like for organization, everybody is able to organize themselves. And I'm not super good in managing people. So
I think what you're dealing with is just like the great subtlety of leadership, right? It's the one of, when do I say, hey guys, I gotta be the leader, I gotta be the director here and say, we gotta go this way because this is the vision, please trust me. And then when do you just go, no, keep doing what you're doing, everything's fine. It's not unique to game development, it's not unique to film, it's not unique to any, that's just how organized humans are. We have to delegate. So it makes perfect sense to me. The stakes are just a lot higher and there's more responsibility, I think, at your scale. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the idea of like when you have a vision of a specific thing, let's say a specific character art, a creature. You have an idea of a creature in your brain, and you're like, artist, I want you to create this, and you give them a paragraph of what you want. There is no way you are going to be able to articulate, unless you're an artist yourself and can draw it, exactly what you want. There's no way you can write out exactly what you want. So the artist will take the description and try to make it, and it will never ever be what you had in your head. So instead, giving the artist, say, I want this kind of thing, go create something. This is why concept artists are so great, right? They're so incredible at like taking a single line of a description and giving you 10 different variations on what it could be. And as a director, you have to give yourself over to the skill and the creativity of your team, and just being like, make an interpretation of this, like show me what you can do. And then from my experience, when I've done that with like the artists I'm working with, they always make something way cooler than I thought of. Like, it's always infinitely better.
Yeah.
You just gotta let them do it.
I mean, as a game director, for me, you are the spark, the initial spark. You know, you give the global direction of the project. Then, I mean, we have the luck that people who is higher in the pool actually is higher for their competency on beautiful light universe. So maybe it's not fitting for AAA studio when people need to work on project.
Yeah.
But for our project, at least people have been higher for this. So maybe it's working for us like this because of this. But the thing is, exactly what you said. I mean, you hire people for their creativity. So trust them. And if you want people to be creative, you need to let them freedom. If you don't do this, you will just cut the creativity. And if they doesn't fit at all the job, then don't hire them. This is like a mistake on the recruitment. But if you are good on your recruitment and profiling of people, then they must match, and then you will have some alchemy. Alchemy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Alchemy.
Alchemy. Like the apothecary, the mix,
the
special, the secret sauce, the special ingredient, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is also a lot of benefits of this. If you are doing things like this, people will be involved in your project.
Yeah.
Like they will. The key for me is like you need to give to your collaborators the feeling that this is not your project and they are not working for you, but they are working for the same goal on the same game, and this is also their game. And this is like super important because if you don't do this, people is not involved, and this is when a developer is just doing like the bare minimum of the thing to get money at the end of the month. This is not art. This is like just a job. So
it's a shit situation, man. Yeah.
And I think
it sounds like a dream to work at your company. It sounds like this, like creatively, like as a creative, this is. I haven't gone into triple or double because I don't want to have my creative input crushed. Like whether it's right or wrong, you want to have your voice artistically heard. And you want to be able to express it and try and bring something to the table. And not saying that happens in double and AAA at all, but that's why I prefer the indie side because it's a necessity that you do that, right? You kind of have to do that. But it sounds like you're really trying to foster that and really make sure that philosophy stays alive within the project. And it sounds awesome, to be honest. I'm really impressed.
Yeah, thanks. But I think it's working for indie game. As you said, it will probably not work for AAA. But we don't want to go too big, especially for this reason also. Like zero interest to be like in a super huge team when people just call together. And the thing is like my vision of indie against AAA. AAA, it's like if you are in a huge ship. A huge boat, like a cargo tanker, something like this. So you have a lot of inertia and you can go very far with this inertia. But if you need to make a turn, it doesn't work. And when you are in indie game, you are like in super small size boats, sailing, and you can do 90 turns super fast and things like this. This is agility you win by being indie, and this is where we have some advantage against AAA and disadvantage. And so this is also why you need people who is involved into the project. I don't know if it makes sense saying it like this, but all of this is linked to creativity, to people involved, to I can speak for hours about how you can handle team like this. But one good example is on Deep World, people doesn't have work hours. Like you just do the number of hours you need to do per week, sorry. But you are free to do them whenever you want. And this is the same thing than respecting creativity of people. When you are an artist, if you are stuck to like working from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock tonight, I don't know, something like this, 8 o'clock. Sometimes, your brain is just not ready for having some artistic idea. You need to do a pause to play some video game, stuff like this. And this is something who is going along, I'm thinking this because I see so many projects when people doesn't respect this need of having some pause when you're doing artistic stuff, freeze the head and stuff like this.
Yeah, we're getting
the
that.
best way of doing it.
Yeah, We're getting that better, I think. I think more studios are understanding that. Just like it's obviously important to have office hours and have overlap, but we can tell it's very feasible and even just a good thing, advantageous for the company to let people do things when they want, as long as they're putting the time in. And it's good that we're kind of changing toward that. Having a lot of a remote work situation and international teams kind of helps it because it kind of forces it, where it's like, well, you can't like hold people 100% accountable and clocking in. So like, why would you, as long as the stuff's getting done? And that's that.
Exactly.
I want to ask a little bit of Harry's about like, let's talk a little bit about some of the other things that are, I guess you could say, if not unique, just really special and distinct about your team, which is the level of transparency that you guys do. I've always been impressed by that because it just feels very risky to me. It feels like emotionally, it's very. It could create a vulnerability where like people are always watching you and there's pressure. I want to hear more about.
Can you describe
like,
that transparency? What
of
form
course.
for our listeners? What kind of transparency do you give?
Full. Like the goal was even at some point to deliver what costs for what thing, so players can know why this is costing so much, why we need to put the price at this level and stuff like this. This is mostly answering to it. So basically, we have zero marketing budget on the start. Like I think for the trailer, we are something about 100K for the CGI trailer, who is basically nothing. To give an idea, if you go with Blur Studio or something like this, a trailer about 3 minutes or 4 minutes is like 1 million, something like this. But the thing is, you need to have people engaging with your project. So being full transparency since the start is an excellent way to communicate around your game. And it gives also to the players the possibility to follow the game development and the project growing. So it's like kind of a special feeling. The bad side is, of course, we got some copycats or people who is taking your ID and putting in the game and release the game before you. This is stuff who is happening. And it's answering also to another need who is very important. It's like player frustration. I think in the industry right now, we have a huge issue in the way we communicate with people, with players. Like we mostly, when there is an issue or something like this, we say there is an issue and come back in 2 days. Hopefully it will be fixed. Or we delay the game because blah blah blah. We need more time to polish, etc., etc. But we don't explain why. And same, we have a cheater issue. We just say most of the time, cheaters is a very complex problem to solve. Trust us. Optimization, etc., etc. We can go for hours. My vision, if you go super transparent with people, they're able to understand and they forgive you. This is justice. Like if we got an issue and stuff like this, if you don't lie, if you don't try to hide, and you say, okay, people, we announced this thing, but finally it will not be done. Is this very a big deal on communication? I don't think so. Like if you explain it normally, honestly, people will be able to understand. They will say, oh, okay, that's sad, yes, but I forgive you. And I think so many studios have tried so hard to hide things, like wherever you take Ubisoft and downgrade drama. They mostly never communicate about this. Like they say once in a time, I think, sorry for this, we will not do this anymore. But they can just explain why this is happening. Because when you start the project, you start to present, so you push the graphics on maximum, then you start to work on the console porting, stuff like this. And you need also to fit with the actual hardware of players. You have imagined the hardware going in the direction, finally it doesn't go, thing doesn't work and stuff like this. And so you need to downgrade. Explain this. And people will be able to understand and be transparent, and you will not get the drama, and people will still buying your game and don't think they are full because is this correct to say full-head?
For what? Say again.
For like if you accept something but finally it's not in the game, know this feeling. But if you explain before, like it will. Yeah. For me, I don't think it will be a big deal if you say this before. So this is the idea behind it.
Yeah, I think it's. Oh, go ahead, Jay.
No, go for it, bud.
I think it's telling that whenever I feel like whenever a game announces, "Hey, sorry everybody, we're not going to hit this launch window. We're actually going to have to launch the game 5 or 6 months later, the response usually, regardless of genre, regardless of production size, seems to be mostly, okay, take the time that you need. And part of this, you could say, I feel like this is a bit of a gaming culture shift from what it used to be years ago. I think that's my gut feeling, and like what I'm empirically observing, at least from like a sociological, cultural way. It seems that way, and I think that's largely because there's a greater understanding of the complexity of game development, and it's an indication. I mean, like with the way that we have social media, the way that we have immediate instant communication through the internet. We don't have to wait for that issue of PC Gamer, right, to read the preview on whatever game it is that you're excited for. And I feel like what you're doing, like your vision, let's call it your communication vision for the company, is aligned with how the culture is progressing. People are understanding more and more, okay, sometimes things don't work out. Okay, they're going to be honest with us. It's and bad things might happen, because that's the big fear, right, when it comes to whether or not you could be transparent, is things changing.
To be honest, I think the start of this idea, like to hide thing, was like studio and investor was afraid that people will not buy the game. But now we have Steam refunds. So does that make sense?
You're good.
No, but
2 hours in 2 weeks is really generous, man. Like people can get a good
generous.
feel. Yeah. Maybe talk a little bit, by the way, before you continue, about specifics. Like, what does the transparency look like? There's the streams, I know. There's social media posts. Tell us more about how you do it.
So I'm streaming the development of the game, and every member of the team is able to also stream the development of the game. There is zero NDA. So when someone tests the game, a playtester or a YouTuber get access to the game, he can freely communicate about it without any constraint, any contract, there is nothing, basically. We also try to share every issue we meet, like and honest state of where we are, like when we are bad on optimization, when we have issue, when we are happy from a patch, when we are not happy, all this kind of stuff. And when there is some technical issue, also we try to go in depth and explain why thing is going messy. There's thing like this, and it's also going. I think one of the most bold move was to show playtests very early. And allow people to meet the game when it was barely bare bones. And it goes super high, because we got a lot of big streamers, I think about Drusky, Clean, a guy like these YouTubers, Level Cap, extra, who made a lot of video about the game, and they enjoy it. And so it brings many people. And with this strategy, we are actually in 600K wishlist, with like top 40 or top 30 in Steam for zero budget marketing. And usually to get this number, people, studio have to put some million in the marketing. So I think this is the right way to do things when at least you are indie. One of the bad side of it is, of course, you don't get the hype of the new thing. But is it even something right now, like in video game? No. The last project, I think, who built all the hype was the Battle Royale of not Respawn, but the new Apex.
Apex Legends.
Oh, yeah.
Tina, who's not here, worked on Apex. She was a reviewer.
It's a shame. It's a shame Tina's not here. She could speak to that more.
She could speak to that.
They just dropped it, dude. They were just like, bam, here you go.
It was like, there's a trailer. You want to play? Right now, free. Enjoy.
Another example of a team that they, not to speak for Tina, and I hope I don't misquote her, but she's spoken about it before they were working on Titanfall 3, and then they decided as a team that they wanted to pivot. They all voted, and they pivoted to working on a Battle Royale. And, allowing the team to be creative and allowing them to try something different, to try and push it in a different direction, I think is really beautiful. I think also, Aherys, it's really nice to see that you and your team giving over to being vulnerable to everyone, because I hate this idea of devs having to delay games and then, like you said, trying to hide it and trying to be like, it was like, well, regardless, you're delaying it, so the people who are going to get mad are going to get mad. And we live in such a better world now, where through the world we live in and specific YouTubers, the literacy, like the knowledge of how games are put together, is so much better, like generally across the board. So people understand when you start saying slightly technical things. Like if you say, hey, we're delaying it because we have a problem with netcode, people are going to generally understand the general idea of why it's being delayed, rather than just being like, we have to delay it because something, right? Like, I like that vulnerability.
I agree and disagree at the same time. Um, there is thing like yes, gamers understand a bit more video game, but they understand it super badly.
Oh yeah, for sure. I agree with that.
and this is
That's
like
true.
a huge issue. Like if you ask to gamer what is the time just to put a button, a clickable button of your game with the system behind it, they will say 10 minutes, something like this, when sometimes it can take weeks for a simple stupid thing. There is this, but there is also like there is a new phenomena, very recent. I don't know if you know. I will not make name dropping, but there is some YouTubers with like doing some video on Unreal Engine 5 and saying why Unreal Engine 5 is bad. And this is very hurting when you are a developer, because most of what he says is totally wrong. Like on the base level to the end level, it's like it's bullshit. And us, we have a lot of people who is like, why you are using Unreal Engine 5? I've seen in this video, and they send the video. This guy is saying this is bad, and we got so many things, so many links on the Discord about this guy, for example.
Yeah.
And this is not only him. There is like a global trend of some YouTubers about it.
That really surprises me.
Yeah, and this is super hard because like it's deviating people's opinion on what is the actual real problem of video game and what is the problem, So it's like super hard to handle on communication. It's add complexity on this, and on the other thing, there is so many like ID from the players. One common thing about cheating. When you speak with players, a lot of them will say, yes, but cheating is like good for a studio because they can sell more game as they ban people. I've heard this so many times.
Got to look at the numbers there, right?
Yeah, and when you are in the industry, you are like, it doesn't make any sense. Like you are losing a ton of money because of cheating.
Yeah,
like Valve, for example,
it's a really odd example because okay, let's say 6v6 game, one person cheats. That one cheater ruins the game for every other player, and they might quit. So then getting one extra sale on the game is not worth losing that many players
at all. Especially because very often it's on free to play. Like there is this argument for Rainbow Six Siege or CS:GO or CS2, who is free to play, so it doesn't make sense. They don't buy skin. Account with still cheating account is often very stolen account, arcade account. Doesn't make sense at all. But this is like very common. I heard this thousands of times.
I'm smiling because I'm thinking of your D&D analogy earlier, Jay, and I want to make another. You play in a 10-person match, and like there's one cheater. All those other 9 players roll dice. They roll will saves to continue playing the game and not be frustrated. And if they fail those will saves, they just quit and they don't buy it. Do you really want to roll all those dice? Just one cheater provokes that.
It's terrible.
Frustration.
I agree, Aherys.
I think education is a lot better, but also worse at the same time because people are so free to believe whatever some random dickhead.
Yeah. You're totally right, but I will offer this as a counter. It is better, right? It's a lot better, I think, than it used to be. Like I mentioned this on a previous stream. We had like actual games media publishing articles saying things like, "Oh, whoever made this game should be shot." That shows a pretty significant lack of empathy, right? And I think that we're obviously talking about like different calibers of criticism or interaction here, but it shows that there's a little more understanding. As much as it isn't reassuring to hear, I imagine, at least they're able to know what engine you're developing on, and they're able to speak the language a little bit. They're able to be at least a little engaged. Although I get that it's way more frustrating, and it's again, it's interesting to me that's showing up, especially about UE5. It's such a standard. You would think that they would understand that.
There is many example basically about this. But the hard thing is like as developer, I feel like we'll lose confidence of people. Like now we need like sometime people ask me proof. Like I have a master degree, proof of what I'm saying. Like this is literally my job. I'm doing this every day on stream and stuff like this, and I need to prove what I advance. So now I'm doing this. Like I gave proof, but even with proof, like it's hard to convince people. But I think it's not only video games; it's like a general society issue, and it's going way beyond video games. But yeah, that doesn't help definitively, especially for communicating.
Yeah. Can it help? Like, so there's a term within programming. I'm not sure how well this translates with French, Aherys, but like we call it rubber ducking. So you put a rubber duck on your desk, and when you're having a programming issue, you can't get past it mentally. You don't know what to do. You basically describe the problem to the rubber duck. You talk to it, and then the action of saying it reveals it in your brain, and you do it right. Do you find that like having an audience and being able to have them watch you, is it kind of like rubber ducking? Have you ever had your audience kind of like help you rethink a problem?
It's already happened, but not too common. The reason why I'm living, doing my game on live stream, is mostly because I'm like super dissipate. And when I'm live streaming, it's allowed me to focus on game development. I know I'm locked for 4, 5, 6 years, 6 hours.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm using live stream. But after what you explained is totally true. Me, I'm before I got like adults on my desk to speak to, and now I'm speaking to Claude AI. So.
There we go. And
it's bit, and it's talk back, saying mostly bullshit, but it's talk back. So.
Yeah.
What kind of inflatables do you have on your desk? Are they all bath toys? Grab them.
He's got them. Let's go.
For people who are listening to the podcast right now and can't see, Aherys has left his desk. He's already back.
Hey, look at that.
Is that a bear? Oh, it's
cute. Like a giant bear.
Big dark brown bear with black eyes.
It's a huge bear, dude.
That was big. That was a big one.
Oh yeah, it's a big one.
That's awesome.
Well, and what was I going to say? Yeah, no, I think what you're saying makes sense. It's quite a commitment that you guys have made to doing this, but it's good that it has its advantages. Players definitely appreciate it. Like, I have to imagine, well, you tell me, holistically speaking, on the whole, I imagine most players are really appreciative of this mindset, right?
Yes, I think, yeah. I think it's always the same thing. Most of the people, I think, silently like it, because you can see it on numbers and stuff like this. And the perspective you have, only people who is like not happy with it. So it's always hard to judge from your point of view. But regarding the numbers, regarding you, as a game dev, you also always see most negative thing rather than a positive thing. You know? And so I think, yes, people enjoy it. We have a lot of people on Discord. People is mostly happy, I hope. When I can sound a bit negative, but it's mostly because I'm dealing every day on Twitter with those kind of thing when you need to explain. And I will continue because I think it's like super important to do it. If you don't provide the source of information, like correct and accurate information, you cannot after say, yeah, but this is gamers, they cannot understand if you don't explain to them. This is also the job of game dev for me.
Yeah, I can tell because if I look at your social post, this was probably a few weeks ago, somebody was talking about anti-cheat and Delta Force, and you made a post saying like, well, hey, I understand players, your expectation is this, but here's what is a more realistic expectation. That is educational, that's important, it's good that you do that, but yeah, it fucking drains you, dude. Like it's a lot that you guys have on. I remember my other question before. How often do you stream, like you personally, and how often do your teammates stream?
Every day.
Literally every day you stream, really?
Yeah, every day. It's like I miss maybe 1 day per week, and not even.
Wow, that's wild. But like you said, you use it as a form of like keeping you locked in, which is real smart.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
If I don't do it, I know I will. Counter-Strike 2 is calling me. So
it works though. I've experienced this a little bit. I did about a few months ago. I did a stream where I was like animating my show, but like I live streamed it to kind of show the audience what it's like to animate my show, and I got more work done that day than I usually do because like the little breaks you take, which is everyone's right to take those little breaks, and you should. I find I take them less when I'm streaming because you're being watched by a bunch of people. You know, you lock in, you look at chat. It's really helpful. Yeah, it's really good.
After I even take my break with the chat, basically. I'm doing some CSGO, basically, or Dota 2 sometimes. So they leave it with me, but yeah, this is just a good way to keep me like focused on it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Proves you're a real gamer. There you are in the editor, right? And you're like,
That's
you guys
proof,
think I'm
right?
not a real gamer? Check it out. And then you slay a little bit at CS:GO or CS2.
No, but one good comment we often got is like, you are not afraid to show the source code of the game. It's true. Like when I'm doing the game, I'm showing literally the source code of it. But
so you're not just an editor. You're in Visual Studio, like you're writing code as well.
Writers, but yeah, mostly. It's like you see the code, you see me working on every system of it.
Okay.
But the thing is, like we already know, some of the playtesters who play Beautiful Light has been contacted to sell the copy, the account, to be able to reach the game. We know there is some version of Beautiful Light on some dark boards over the internet and stuff like this. So it doesn't really matter if you show some part of the code source. The original, if I was totally free about Beautiful Light, the code source of the game will be even open. I cannot do it because of legally, but I don't think this is like something you must hide. Open source is working really great when you need to go against security issue and stuff like this.
It gets people invested, right?
Yeah,
it gets people invested. They care. They wanna be involved, and they wanna feel like they can contribute.
Imagine you have a AAA or something like this, a AA, doesn't matter. The code source is free and it's already open in real engine, in real tournament, for example. There is some other game I don't think about it, but you love the game and you want to modify it, but not just modding in depth. Like the code source is the netcode is not working properly for you, you can fix it. And sometimes with open source, and very often, in fact, you have some genius who is incoming and say, okay, I will fix it. And they work for, it's like a dream. And then your project take a whole other dimension when people can be really interested in. The only thing who lacks something, I think, it's like integrating what community do into the game, but it can bring some legal issue and stuff like this. But
yeah,
what are some other games that had that? I'm just curious. What are some other games that had their source code released recently? I feel like there were a few.
There is some SDK, of course. Insurgency Sunstorm got one, I think.
Oh, I mean like full drop, right, of the source code. Not like a tool set necessarily.
Yeah, I think Hades 2 has all of its code written in Lua, I think, and it's all accessible in early access. So like it's insanely easy to mod, Lua? And you can see it. I think I need to brush up on that, but I think Pirate Software made a post about it. It's most of it's accessible, which is crazy. Like it's all accessible. So giving that freedom, I mean, like, yeah, Aherys, you spoke about it before, like the idea of faster teams with bigger budgets and more manpower might see what you're doing and try and do it quicker. There's always that risk, but I think the transparency and giving the freedom to your, contributors and your audience is so powerful, especially because, like you said, the netcode's balked. Some wizard comes in and is like, I know how to fix that, and does it. You may have just found a new employee, right? Like an absolute wizard to come work for you in the future. And it helps your game. It pushes it forward. It doesn't restrict it.
I think even above this, it allows your game to live.
Yeah.
On a much longer scale than what you have accepted. And this is, of course, there's always a financial side when you speak about video games. But
yeah,
if you are really a game dev who is passionate about your project, your main goal is not even the money. It's important, but it's not the money. It's how my project will long and survive over the years. How people will, how much fun they will get with the game. This is like the core thing you want. And open source is like, it's exactly like modding. Open source is kinda modding, technically. And modding and open source allow your game to live sometime, I won't say forever, but for a very, very, very long time. And I think this is the best thing who can happen to a game. Like,
It's
we all
important.
know this game, like, I don't know, Mountain Blade 2, take it. It's like insane with modding.
Yeah, man. Like Bannerlord Online, like it's nuts what those guys have done. It's
also,
those people have done.
It's really important with the type of game you're making as well. Aherys, like that longevity and trying to keep. I don't want to say keep it alive because that makes it feel like games are on life support. It's not. It's not that. It's like keep allowing it to inject life into it and fire and sparks, right? And it's really important with the type of game you're making. Can you, for our audience that don't know too much about Beautiful Light, can you describe what type of game it is in the sense of what makes it unique and what kind of people can look forward to in it?
It's a fucking ovni. Oh, UFO, so in English. Ovni is in French. Yeah, of course. So this is a strange mix of Tarkov and Edge Showdown. So it's not futuristic, but it's modern, like happening in modern time. One of the core thing in Beautiful Light is like you can also play monsters, like the monster side of the game. So imagine like Tarkov, but when there is no scav, but as a replacement of scav, you have monsters. And one of a good example of monsters you can play is like monster you can play in Natural Selection 2. Like, when you can walk on sailing on Alien vs. Predator for people. There's this. The progression system has been think like a RPG, but like a true one when you can set your skill points and stuff like this. And it was not designed like this at the start, but when we did the first playtest, this is what people notice the most and what people actually love the most about the game. This is like the immersion. Like we have nearly no head-up display UI on the game. Everything is diegetic, like you're going. For example, your map is on your PDA, on your forearm, but you have like a scanner with a bit like in Alien, the movies. It's on your forearm also. You have your mate information all on the forearm. Stuff like this. If we need to like show you what is your friend, what is your enemies, your friend have a cam light on the shoulder. Only you can see it. But everything has been synced basically to don't break your immersion. And I think this is one of the very, very, very cool aspects of the game. But there is many things in Beautiful Light, in fact, which is like kinda unique. Just to give a clue, you have, the computers in GTFO?
Yeah.
Like you have a console command when you can. We was very inspired by what they had done. This was super cool. And so basically it's not Linux, but you have like kinda unique system into the game. So you have computer into the game, you can really go, there is all the folders, the structure. There is even a network. So basically you can cut the lights of a wall area if you know the right command for it, connect through IP and stuff like this. So there is a lot of game inside the game and stuff like this. And this kind of the feeling we want to give to the player because I think it's something amazing. Like you see in those Japanese game like Monster Hunter or Armored Core. When you start the game, you are like, okay, this is pretty simple. And when you start to dig, you don't stop to dig. Like the game goes super massive and you are, wow. And even have hours and hours. And this is kind of the thing we want to give with Beautiful Light. But this is super hard to do. So we hope to achieve this level. But the only answer to if we have succeed to will be at the release of the game.
I like what you did there, and I'm smiling because I did a playtest, with you guys recently. I think it was a couple of months ago. I forget. But when I played, and I remember getting to a computer at some point and going, "Oh shit, those bastards!" Because I'm stressed, and suddenly I have to do a mini game where I have to understand and read. It wasn't lines of codes exactly, but input commands and stuff. And having that experience, it's not just like an arbitrary decision, right? It's cool because it fits with the vision of the game. Here you are in a stressed out environment and you're demanding something of the player to do that requires focus. All the while they're still trying to survive and not get killed by a monster who's actually a player and all the more threatening. That's what's so cool, I think, as well as just your general aesthetic appeal that you have.
The idea behind, if you want, is like one of the key aspects of Beautiful Light. It's like objective-based extraction shooter. It's different from every other extraction shooter, in fact, except Hunt. Like in Tarkov, you are loot-based, or in the cycle, or things like this, you are loot-based. Loot-based means you go on the map, you go into a shelf or something like this, you loot, then you go out of the map. This is good. It's a good feeling. It's no issue with this. Objective-based is a bit more complex, in fact. Objective-based means you have one objective for all the team, like in Hunt Showdown. And the thing is, it's a bit harder than what we threw at the start, because you need to have. It's like super good for the PvP, even better because it focuses people for the PvP. But the bad thing of it is replayability. Like you need to find many things to make replayability better. And the replayability is mostly achieved by what can happen on the map and what you can meet. So there is computers, there is one simple thing, door who is close, open, thing like this. It can be the AI with the PvE system. So this can be player controller monsters who will bring some new thing. But we have also like the Wither, who is super important. And also we have something like, if you know Stalker, you have emission. We have exactly the same concept. It's not stolen a bit, but it's
a little.
No, but
it's okay. It's public domain. It's all inspiration.
Our game is very inspired by Stalker and Roadside Picnic. Basically, we love those universe, and so we have implemented something like emission, which is called Discharge, just to make it like it's not exactly the same thing, but basically this is the same thing. Randomly, it's like 25% of the time you can have an emission, a discharge in the middle of the game, basically, and if you are not in a building, you die. With an alert on the PDI and stuff like this. Yeah. And it just to give an example, but this is how you can do things. And the computer is an excellent example of this because we can bring some problem to solve to the users in the middle of the fight or with the stress that when you are on the computers. One thing to explain, sorry. Beautiful Light follows the diegetic thing on the sound. That means everything you do, other players need to be able to hear that. So when you are writing on the keyboard, it makes noise for each keystroke. Other player can hear this. Players can see your screen and what you have write on it. Like if you leave the computer, come back 10 minutes after another players, he can see on the screen what you have wrote and stuff like this. Wow. And you can even set up trap with it. But this is very important because those kind of thing like allow the stress. If I go to the computer, can my mate cover me? If I'm alone, what I do, what is my strategy to do it? Do I need to place a trap at the door? Stuff like this, you know. And
you guys know those. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, and then I'll
sorry. But this is just to give an example. This is how you. The thing to design a game like this is okay. I don't need to make a straight scenario for the player. I just start a road for him. You need to go by here, and here, and everything else who can happen is a bit random. And it needs to be messy, not totally messy, but messy enough to make every game a bit unique.
Creative,
yeah. I'm imagining. You guys know those stock videos of like a guy in a workplace with a suit and tie on a computer typing, and someone leaning over his shoulder looking at the computer pointing, and the guy's like, yeah, thank you, and he's typing. I just pictured that, but Beautiful Light. So everybody's in their tactical gear, hunched over, all bulky, typing around. That's so cool that you share that. It's such everything you're doing just feels so solid to me, man. Like you're taking advantage, I think, of the players' interest, maybe even just like media in general, but especially in video games, the new genre of tactical horror, right? You're bringing a familiar thing into a strange world. You're creating. Your design is imbued with a desire to create moments, for players,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Of just like that little moment of like, oh fuck, how do I do this? And you lean over while you're still watching the doorway, and you go, oh no, you have to hit enter. Okay, you're good. And then
Exactly.
that little moment, and it's great for the age that we're in now, where we have all these creators who want to have those moments because they're fun to share with others who are watching.
Yeah.
It's fun for groups of friends to play. It's fun for solo people to make friends or just be the lone wolf. Like
Group of
it's such
friends,
a solid.
you nailed it on the head there for me. Like everything you've just described, Aherys, like the level of two things: communication, necessity for communication, and mastery. Like the idea of, you know, us three going into a match and me adoring, you know, the computer systems, and I put time into understanding it, and I know if you get me on a computer, I can sort the building out, and I can set things up, and I can, you know, do whatever. But I need you guys to cover me. I need you to get me in. Or Aherys, I need you to go here and create a distraction so they're not going to hear us, like, you know, toying with this. The idea of there being player-driven roles in a way, and like the teams, these aren't like things that, you know, are dictated, but like the players are making that decision to of like what to do and where to go. I think is really beautiful, and fostering that communication between players is what I think keeps games alive and keeps them going.
But I think basically we have a little issue in the video game right now when a lot of video game doesn't take risk, you know, on the gameplay part, and this totally kill innovation. And the thing like that is kinda risky, but this is necessary, and because you bring some innovation every time you do it, and as you said, you can create moments, and this is everything about a video game, like creating moments where you are online. One game who was super cool about this was Battlefield. You know, it was even the marketing thing only in Battlefield, you know, because in Battlefield there is so much moments.
I think.
Yes, exactly, and this is a very good idea of when it can happen, and every can go messy only in this game, and this is something you keep in memory for age. And this is mostly why, but it's also following another way to think the thing. My vision of entertainment, it's only me, but you will see, it's like a video game is really fun when you solve an issue. It's all about that. So you have also the game like racing when you drive, and it's fun because you drive, but this is about solving issue. And when you do a duel with a game, you solve an issue. When you are exploring something and you find something, you have solved an issue and stuff like this. And you need to like erase the moment where you are not. A good example of that, I will explain. Like in Tarkov, if you go for a quest with like looting a computer, you go to the computer, you press F, and you have a scrolling bar. Okay, you have found the computer, you have kinda solved an issue. But what you can bring to make it more fun is like having the computer system, need to go to type the command, find the correct file, transfer it to your thing, and you have not just waited for a waiting bar, basically. You have doing some operation, you feel a bit smart because you have understood the computer system, you transfer it back, and it's making the experience much better, from my point of view, than just waiting for the thing. And a lot of things in Beautiful Light is like about it, like solving issues, and this way I think you can hopefully make better moments. Of course, I can sound arrogant, and I want to say this in case someone clip me later.
You're gonna post it on socials.
Yeah, I know absolutely we're gonna make huge mistake with Beautiful Light in many parts of the game. Probably, maybe the netcode will be shit, maybe performance will be shit, and stuff like this. But what I want to say is, at least we try. This is the thing, but we know there will be mistake.
You're doing everything as right as, and I'm not just flattering you.
Thank you.
We genuinely believe this. We're always transparent. That's why we wanted to have you on, right? Like we only have people on that we, we like something about what they've done or what they're doing. And yeah, like you, in my experience, like, because I would kind of define you as AA. I don't know if you would define yourself as that, but in my experience working at this,
we are a single Z.
Say again. What's that?
We are a single Z. A single Z.
Oh. Oh, okay. 1Z. Got it. But anyway, I guess my point is, like, in that scale of production, you're doing everything right? Like, you're doing all that you can do right? And you got to put it out into the world and hope for the best, just like any other game. You're taking plenty of risks. And hey, man, like, the wish list count if there were ever a metric for how much people are interested in something, how much people are interested in like a game that's available on Steam, a PC game, wishlist is pretty good, right? And did you say 600,000?
Yes.
That's nothing to scoff at, man.
That's
you just got to
really
make
good.
sure you,
it's real good.
It's just going to take time and management, and you just have to decide when to release, and that's going to be the tough one, I imagine. Well, what's your current? I have two questions, I guess, if I can ask. What's your current big challenges right now, and what's your target release date, as much as you could say publicly?
So, we can, as I say, transparency is as maximum, so we can mostly share everything. The initial date we have planned like 2 years ago was 2025, if I remember correctly, end of 2025. But we realized like 6 months ago, something like this, we will need more if we want to do everything we want, like correctly, optimize, stuff like this. And so our idle date is like 2026, end of 2026. It's like not the setup date, this is like the maximum date. And we also want to avoid GTI 6 release, of course, like everybody.
Yeah.
So we want to keep a bit of margin. But if I need to give an accurate date, it will be probably in June or between June and December of 2026.
Okay.
The thing
and is this
we
early
don't...
access or for release?
Early
Just
access.
to
Early
clarify.
access.
Okay, got
Early
it.
access.
Yep. Continue.
Thus, for the month, we have not unlocked the budget for it, but this is actually in negotiation. So hopefully we will be able to reach it. If we are not able to reach it, the game will be released in 2025. Because game, one more time, 1 more years of development is like millions. You need to found. And so this is basically the goal. And what was the other question, sorry?
The quote, which question? Sorry.
You got another, what I was challenging right now. So right now we are working on the back end of the game with like a complex part, but it's not me. This is other programmers who is working on it. They are doing a good job. And on the inventory system. But we take a lot of time to do each step correctly. Like, doing like polishing on the early state of the game. So once it's done, we don't have to come back over the system.
Yeah.
Even if finally it's what we are always doing. Like I think we send the wizard system, the wizard on the map, the different wizard, we change it probably the night 200 times. And I'm not exaggerating and stuff like this. We have 200 different nights.
200 in front of what? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Night wizard. Like, you have different wizard on the map. And we have probably tested 200 different nights since the start of the project to have the right setting for the night, and we are not even happy from the actual one. So it will probably change again.
Got to get night right, dude. It takes a long time.
Yeah,
especially in a game like this, right? Visibility is such an issue.
No, dude, speaking from, this is just my experience for what it's worth, night combat's fucking hard. In Insurgency, in both the original and seriously Sandstorm, like, it's a high lethality game, right? People die very quickly, and it's very easily not fun to just die very quickly and not see what's going on. It's already not fun to die quickly or to have something be feel arbitrary, right? Because you don't know where the shot came from or whatever. At nighttime, you just make all that worse. It got to a point where we had to have serious conversations internally. I say serious. We had to have a difficult conversation. Let's say it like that, where, for this playlist, for this matchmaking, do we want to have night maps be only co-op, or do we want to have PvP? Eventually, in Sandstorm at least, we decided on doing it where, okay, this will be a separate PvP playlist for when you only play at night. So only people who really want to get into that can get into it, and we'll make it timed. There's obviously disadvantages to that. There's plenty of players that say, hey, I like the night combat. It's super atmospheric. It feels like a cool expression of the fantasy of a modern shooter, yada, yada. But unfortunately, we just have to make sure that most players are having a decent enough time and that they can opt into it, right? Like it's a really difficult design decision. Nighttime combat is hard.
That's funny because we took the exact opposite start.
Oh, yeah?
Like
Tell me more.
the game was mostly designed to be played in bad condition for visibility since the start, and I hate bad visibility in FPS. Okay, so, and if we added daylight and stuff like this, it's just to bring like some pause for some players. Like sometime you have day, sometime weather is good and stuff like this, and it's night and quiet, and you can see people perfectly and stuff like this. But the thing also is like we try to give the maximum tool for the player to deal with bad visibility condition. But basically, on Beautiful Light, you can go from day when everything is fine to rain when thing is not super good, to heavy fog, to very, 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 very heavy fog, like you don't see shit, to clear night, and clear night is mostly okay, to pitch black night, like when you cannot see anything. And the way we are doing it is, like, of course, hardcore scenario is not very common, but if you do them, the reward on the map is much, much higher. Like the experience will be like in high day, pitch black night. There will be more monster and stuff like this. But the artifact at the end, because this is I didn't speak about it, but on the first map the objective is like to collect an artifact, and the artifacts have a better value basically. So you deal in the you go under a nightmare basically. You know it, but if you succeed, the reward will be much much higher.
So it's a player choice to get into those.
No, because they don't choose the wizard. We cannot do this for matchmaking reason because we cannot split people too much. But there is kinda I cannot. This is something we hide for the moment because just to give like a thing is if we announce thing too early, we know some games. I don't will do name dropping. Will add them before us. And it's already happened sometime, and every time we see this we are like, it's not a huge issue, it's just sad because players come and say, oh, you have copied this game. No,
they copied us.
We have made this thing like 2 years before, so no. So we try to just give when this is perfectly finished, and so people can know. And but we have system to deal with this.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you guys are entitled to that. I'm thinking, of course, I think it's fine to say what happens when like a game like Unrecorded announces itself, and then a couple years later, a game like Body Cam comes out. There's look, when something is public, I said public domain earlier. What I should say is like when something is public, it's fair game, but you can kind of tell what happened, right? Like you can kind of tell the inspiration there, and it sucks to have something. Have another team just take something that was precious, near and dear to you, and they take it and they run with it. It's just like an unfortunate reality.
That depends, to be honest. Sometimes yes, but this is interesting. You take body cam and a record thing. If you ask most of the player what happened with a record, they think body cam is a record. Like for a lot of players, when they buy body cam, they think that they was buying the game they've seen on the trailer who was in record. And I know very well the guy of Unrecord, and they got super damaged by the situation, so not idle. But in our case, it's also happened with one specific game when they basically took most of the game design of Beautiful Light, tried to apply it to their game, they even steal our Steam page. Like, no shame. Not at all. But
you're right. There's a line that can be crossed there where it transcends just being, oh, it was public, they were just inspired. And actually, if you have a player that's getting confused and they think that they're playing the original game, that's a fair point.
And players doesn't even think this is bad. Because when you talk to players to this, they say, yes, but this is concurrency, so this is good, right? In fact, not at all. Because what this is forcing studio to hide stuff. This is also forcing studio to go faster, to crunch more, to make unfinished game to release faster and stuff like this. So in the end, the consumer is not the guy who is winning. The thing is, they got a rushed version of what will be the game, and the real game is like not a rushed version, but a less finished version because they got a lot of pressure from copycats.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not good, basically.
It doesn't work on either end, I think. I think it damages both sides.
Yeah, exactly. So not super happy for the game. But of course you need to, because someone can come and say, hey, dude, you copy Ant and you copy Tarkov and you take a lot from Stalker and stuff like this. There is a small border when this is inspiration. And inspiration for me I have no issue. And copycat. This is really two different things. Like inspiration is like you love something, you take some idea from it and you want to suggest something better. Copycat is like literally I just make a cheap version of it try to release before if possible, so I can parasite the sale of the game, and I don't really care about the consumer.
Yeah. It's rough, man. It's real rough. And like that all
It's
goes
fine.
back to the vulnerability. Like you guys
we
are
got
putting yourselves
lucky.
out there.
We got lucky because the studio who did this for us basically died. I mean, the game is 40 people online, something like this. So
Okay.
it's fine for
Well,
us.
they got what was coming to them. So
I don't even feel happy for this to happen to them. I don't like them, to be honest, especially because the CEO of the studio come on Discord to me and say, "Oh, we got exactly the same ID in the same time." Oh, motherfucker! But this is thing like
what
this.
a
Yeah,
dickhead.
yeah. Welcome in the dev community. But usually we must. I say this, but the also players maybe need to know the other side of indie community. Grayzone Warfare. You is Insurgency. I can speak about many games, in fact. Red River, if I'm correct. All those games talk together like developers. Like we share a lot with guys and developers. They are super on some Mad Fingers games. I even get a sweatshirt of them here. And all those indie tactical shooter games is basically talking to them between each other. And there is a lot of sharing. So it's not always dark between indie, but it can go dark, yes.
It is important to point that out. Yeah, we know. Like I know the Unrecord devs. I know we were like pretty. Our team back in the day, I guess, before it was even out. We knew the squad devs, right? The Insurgency team, the squad devs. We would chat, and we had different experiences. We were excited by each other. We were actually like, if you zoom out and you think about the business and market side, we are kind of propping each other up, right? Like we're creating a genre, and somebody can enter that, or not creating it. There's a subgenre that we're contributing toward together, right? And in that subgenre, everybody's doing something. Players want to enter that and then have multiple experiences, or they use squad as an entry point and then go to Insurgency, or vice versa. Like there's a lot of support that happens there, even implicitly. Obviously, your competitors in some other ways, but not really. I would say it really depends on what you're saying. It does come down to it, where you only have so many dollars, and what game are you going to buy? But there's a lot of communication, and there's a lot of just love for the craft and that kind of thing too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to see people. A lot of the time, especially in indie, we want to see each other succeed, and we want to see. I like for all the indie games that I communicate with. I want to see these games come out because I want to play them. And I want them to be the best they can be because I want to play a good game, right? But there are outliers where people are just, stealing ideas. They're trying to get what they can from you and then just leave you in the dust because they've got what they want. But those people, I think, are a lot rarer than the people who are around to help.
Absolutely.
You just got to be wary.
Even, I mean, one more time, doing video game is like super hard, and so you need the support between a developer. You need sharing experience. It's like everybody win from it. And also something I want to point out, basically, when you are taking a risk with a video game, you can fail pretty easily. Like taking a risk is like bringing some new idea. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work at all. And for example, we take a lot of risk, but we got super lucky that decision was good, but we have no idea before it was good.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of very good developer who took risk basically and will fail. And this is a process. But what I want to point out is when a dev is taking risk, he's doing his job. Like a game dev do something risky, he's doing his job because he tried to make the industry progress. Sometimes it's bad, no problem. Next project will be better. Yeah. And this is how it should work. And one of the things in the industry right now with AAA and stuff like this is like not always. Like there is some very good AAA who is released with risk taken, but most of them doesn't take risk, And this is what can be damaging for me in the industries. Like you prefer security on the gameplay, having the old receipt of video game, and this is boring, right now.
Yeah,
I think we can agree for this. This is boring. And just to finish on this. Sorry. The support between devs is very important for this. Like you can share about what you have experienced, what you have tested, and what doesn't work. for a project to another project. This is a very good example on GDC. GDC is a game developer conference in San Francisco, when every game dev can share, come and bring a topic, and we talk about it. And this is super important because you learn a lot from other experiences. And even AAA do this. Like I cannot say his name because I don't know if you want this to be now. But we got a game director from Ubisoft to come visit Beautiful Light and say, "Oh, this is cool. This is not cool," and stuff like this, giving some advice. We got even Raoul Barbet. Raoul Barbet is a guy behind Life is Strange, who come and see the scenario of the game and say, "Oh, this is cool. This is not cool," and stuff like this. And you can share. And this is like the best experience and the best feedback you can have. From people like them.
It's like getting
100%.
consulting for free. It's so good. It's like getting those friends in to basically, and people you trust that have worked on, like you said, made these mistakes and they've taken risks, so they can just immediately tell you, "Yeah, don't do that. We've done that. Don't do that. Move on. Experiment on something else. This thing ain't gonna work."
Yeah,
you know.
Absolutely. So sometimes you need to don't listen to them, because for transparency, everybody say don't go for it. And finally it worked. So
don't make the game. When you say don't go for it, they said don't do this. Don't make Beautiful Light.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
They said no for Beautiful Light. Everybody said I made before. I say it's too ambitious, and this is true. Like one of the first advice you got as a game dev is like, don't see too big or you will fail. I don't share this feeling. Like you can see very big, just be sure you have enough time and enough not power but willing to achieve it, to finish it,
passion
to go. Not passion, it's like motivation, like to go to the end of it. This is what is important, because I think most of the indie projects who fail is like lacking of motivation at some point, and this is true in game dev, especially when you are indie. Motivation is like the hardest issue.
I like to say, go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I agree. And I like to, I'm curious, Jay, what you say on your end, especially as a teacher, right? Like as someone who teaches and also does like the content that you do. This is similar to the question, I feel like, of like, how do I get into game development, or like, how do I start, or what do I do? I always like to say, whatever your creative, awesome, cool ideas are, like pursue them. You owe it to yourself and those ideas to try, right? You're having the ideas for a reason. Try to express and do something in some way. The tools, as we were just talking about here before, tools have never been better. The market is open. You don't even have to box a copy anymore. So you have to try, at least toy around. So I always encourage that, and I agree with you. Like, don't tell people don't do this, it's too ambitious, but just keep your backup plan, right? Make sure your family's going to be taken care of. Just make sure you have the thing to fall back on, because if you do try and maybe it's not for you, maybe you don't like it as much as you thought you would, or maybe you don't make the money that you needed to keep doing it full time. Just have your backup plan, have your side gigs, all that kind of thing, and then at that point, if you start and you are truly compelled by making a game and doing this ambitious thing, making a specific game, whatever, and it'll carry you through. And if it doesn't, it's fine. Like you move on to something else. Like there's, and hey, at the worst case scenario, you learned something and you tried something.
100% agree. Just said, if you fail, do another one. Like,
don't stop unless you want to stop. I think there's some people that try it and they're like, this isn't for me. So for them, that's what I mean. Otherwise, you should keep trying. Yeah,
I think it's about, like, from my background, I don't think when you're experimenting, the thing to avoid is putting all of your eggs in one basket. I liked your boat analogy of, like, indie can pivot, but if you put all of your eggs in one basket, if you say, okay, we're going to put all of our effort into doing this one crazy idea, and that fails, if you might get too deep where now you don't have the funding to try something else. So, like, have a foundation. So, all right, well, we've got these multiple crazy ideas for a first-person shooter. Well, you have the foundation there of first-person shooter. So all of the work you've done on, say, gunplay, movement, lighting, stuff like that can stay. That's your foundation. Then you can experiment with additions onto that. If you're like, oh, we're going to try this one crazy idea and it doesn't work, then you're kind of fucked. So make sure that if something fails, if your crazy idea fails, you have a foundation so you can still turn the boat. Because you need to have that, because if you don't,
You have a
you're
team.
fucked.
You might have
I
a
can-
team, and you're responsible for them too.
Yeah.
It's
I
true.
can relate. In fact, in Beautiful Light, the very first idea of Beautiful Light was not even an extraction shooter. Do you know Secret Laboratory, SCP Secret Laboratory?
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
In 2019, I sent a mail to the creator and I say, "Oh, I love your game. Can I do the same thing? Like, do you have your?" And he say, "Sure, do it." And this is the code name for Beautiful Light is still the case in the code right now. This is ETL, Escape the Lab.
Nice.
This was the core foundation. And if you look for the very, very, very first playtest of Beautiful Light, it was not even an extraction shooter. It was mostly like Secret Laboratory. Like you have a lab, you have 2 teams, and you have monsters like this. And it's a swap over time. I think 2 years after the start of the development, I was alone basically at this time, but was talking with friends, and suddenly the idea go like it would be super crazy if we can go on extraction shooter. And it was not even actually like other extraction shooter hasn't been announced except of course Tarkov and who was released in the cycle. But it was a thing. But we totally shift on the, and this is a huge shift because you change every other thing. But the foundation for the FPS, as you said, was here. The foundation was the monsters, was here, and stuff like this, and the core idea was here also. So yeah, definitely
Keep that foundation.
Yeah,
for sure.
You were a fan of. I'm sure we talked about this at GDC last year. You were a fan of the Hidden, right?
I like
mod, the Half-Life 2 mod.
Not a fan. I won't say I'm a fan
Oh.
because, but I remember this mod. But that was not the main inspiration of it. It's not even an inspiration, to be honest. Like I know the project is in some point similar, but it's most like I cannot say Beautiful Light is a SCP game, but in fact this is. So
Look, it's as much an SCP game as Control is, right? Like
I mean, I don't want to share too much on the scenario, so it will stay a bit secret, but you will see by yourself at the release of the project. But the main inspiration for the monster is really natural selection too, like or Alien vs Predator.
Okay.
This is like when we start monsters, we knew since the start we want a monster who crawl on a wall, because it was super fun in natural selection too. And putting this in a tactical military element would be so fun, like to have something crawling above you. And the second one for the FPS feeling and stuff like this was Stalker, but Stalker modded Gamma basically.
Gamma
was a good example of it, yes. And for the objective hunt, so you got the thing for the universe. This is a mix between Stalker, SCP, and Death Stranding. Death Stranding is my favorite game. You can see it on the trailer, I think. Like, oh, you want a fun story about it? When we released this trailer, very fast, a lot of comment was, "This is Hideo Kojima new games," and people
how flattering.
Deep World. Yes, but no, but yes. But in fact, people see Deep Worlds. They look for Deep Worlds. This is a new studio in Geneva. No one knows. And they think about, if you remember when Death Stranding was released, he released this under Moby Dick Games. It was hidden for Hideo Kojima. And I think it was like the announcement for Death Stranding 2. When it's even, if you go on IGN trailers, a lot of people still think this was the case. So, no. But yeah, when we say this, it was like funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I still dream one day to meet him, but still a long road to go.
Yeah.
How old are you, Aherys?
32.
And you've been making games, I guess you said 6 years, right? Because you started officially in 2019.
I'm programming since my 10 years old.
Okay.
So and doing games since 10 years basically.
Yeah.
But it was never a release project, stuff like this.
Yeah. Well, think about the grand scheme, right? You could easily meet Hideo Kojima. You could easily meet at some convention or conference in the future, right? It hasn't been too long yet, so that may happen.
Well, yeah, of course, but will be super cool. It's not like as a fanboy, but as
a designer, like
as a peer.
Yes, as if you see the work of Beautiful Light and say, "Oh, that's cool. You took inspiration from me. I'm proud of that." And it's really because I'm a fan of Hideo Kojima mind. He has some weird side, okay, but I love what he done with Death Stranding.
Oh yeah,
things like this. This is exactly what I love, basically.
He's contributed massively to the culture.
Yes,
it's pretty well. He's the true go-to example of auteur game development. I think he kind of just proved that you could do auteur game development.
Mm-hmm.
He proved it back in when did Metal Gear Solid 1 come out? That was
When I used him as an example earlier, it was out of a place of love from the saying you wouldn't dare fuck with Kojima's vision because he's earned that auteur the respect and the trust, from his team of just being like the vision he has is what this game needs, right? There's different strategies for game dev work best for different studios. There's no everything on dev heads. There's no one size fits all on game development. It's all nebulous and it all flows. Just got to be willing to flow with it for sure.
Someone in the chat, Monkey of Chaos, says, I got Hideo to retweet me. Don't tell Nick or Marty.
Marty knows Kojima. Marty
knows Kojima?
Yeah, because Marty's a huge fan of his stuff. And I was like, I didn't know. And I was like, oh, Marty, wouldn't it be great if you got to meet him? And he was like, I've met him multiple times. I know him. I'm like, oh, okay.
Hot shit over here.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah. So just dropping it. What a nutter. All right, what time is it? Okay, we got a couple of questions and donations from people, so I think we go through those, and then we'll see if we have time for Improv Game Pitch. Okay, so from Redman Road says, also, if there's player-controlled monsters, will the PvE be balanced around them being present too?
Oh, so there is PvE, totally, but this is two separate aspects. Like PvE monsters cannot be controlled by players. This is like a whole range of different monsters. And PvP monsters is exactly like SCAF system in Tarkov. Like you join the match in progress and you need to hunt players. There is a progression system for monsters. Of course, it's like two separate gameplay. So you can progress your PMC or you can progress. Beautiful. And if the PMC is like a RPG system, we for the moment think it can change until the release. But for the moment, we want to see like monsters, we call them anomalies in the game. Anomalies as roguelike system, a bit like Ant but different. The balance, however, is like kinda specific. When you design an asymmetrical gameplay, I think the most common error is like everything need to be balanced.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, monster it need to be balanced to be fun, and this is very different. Like you need to have pro, you need to have cons, but it doesn't need to be flat. If this is flat, this is boring.
Agreed.
And the thing is, like in Beautiful Light, you start with, when you play monsters, you start with small monsters, and the goal of the monsters is like to hunt people. So the one who is crawling is a Wendigo. So you can climb on the wall, and you need to surprise your attackant. You are strong against one player if you take him by surprise. If you don't take him by surprise, he will kill you. And after you can evolve, for example, for the tier 2 of monsters with like the Juggernaut. The Juggernaut is like a big dog. There is some playtest with it already. He can easily take down a team of 2 people, and it's making a lot of noise. It's very powerful. And so the thing is, like, if this is too much powerful, it can be frustrating for players, right? And so you have kinda this idea of balancing game from Valve development, like in Dota 2. When if this is too powerful, don't try to raise it or to balance. Try to go horizontally. So you give tools to the player to counter the powerful thing.
Yes.
And this is make it funny, basically. And so basically, Juggernaut, when there's a Juggernaut who is coming to you, your PDA start to ring. There is multiple example for this, multiple reason for this. First, it alerts you there is a Juggernaut who is coming to you position, but it's also allow when you have an alarm on your PDA, other players, including enemy, hear it. And so this is allowed to go by VoIP and say, guys, let's stop the fight. Let's ally to it. So you can choose to fight him. But if you have no ally, if you are alone, it can be complicated to take it down alone. So you have another option. You can hide in a shelf like in a horror game. You see, this is the counter element we can put for it. And things like this. He's slow in building. This is hard to control the Juggernaut. because this is a monster who is built on inertia. So go in building, don't stay in open field. It will be much easier for you, etc., etc., etc. And in the end, the thing is when you kill a player anomaly, you can scavenge it. And more the guy have power up the anomaly, more the reward is important.
Mhm.
So it gives also like this feeling to, okay, it was hard for the fight, but now I got a lot of money because I achieved to kill him. So there's this thing. And the last aspect, this is an horror survival game. So you are not accepted to take every fight. This is super important. And we're going to give this a bit feeling of Dead by Daylight game when you need to hide, when you want to hide, or need to take the good fight, need to survive basically in an element. If the monster is not powerful enough, you don't feel you need to survive. You feel like in a hack and slash game or something like this. So this is what I mean when you don't need to balance things perfectly. In fact, the fact this isn't perfect make it interesting. This is our vision of thing. We will see at the release if you was right or totally wrong.
I know, I agree with you. I completely agree with you. There's a big conversation. So over this Christmas break, I've been playing a lot of Marvel Rivals, and the balance of that game is wacky, and I love it. So like everyone you play in that game varies from being a superhero to a literal god. If you try to bring their balance to the same place, you wouldn't have that game feel of being that character, right? And so because of that, every damaged character can absolutely wreck any other character. The tanks feel huge, and the healers heal super, super fast. They can keep people alive like it's nothing. So people die super quick, and it's super, super fast. And I love that because you feel like when I play Thor, I feel like I'm playing Thor because of his balance. And it's not because he's perfectly balanced, it's because he's balanced for those creative moments and that the game feel first. And because they've attempted to do that for all of them, everyone feels good, right? You know, it's not because of that, it's not perfect, right? There are characters that are a little bit too good. But I don't think they should be brought down to a level that it should just like, let's get everyone to that good feeling place and create moments. Like you said, you want to create interesting moments. That's the first part.
You want from the first playtest we got every time someone crossed the juggernaut, it was like a massive moment for them every time. Same thing. If death is frustrating, you need to make death fun. You see what I mean? It's thing like this. I mean, a flat game is absolutely boring. So of course it needs to keep in some range. Like don't go too wild, or it will be just unfun. But if you achieve to make thing like unbalanced, not too much, but unbalanced, it's perfect in place for me.
Of course, yeah. I did a video on this, on the balance of Mario Kart and how its frustrations is what keeps it engaging, and how it does all of that. But yeah, it's super, super important for sure.
After just a thing, of course, that depends of what public you are talking to. But can we say Dark Souls is balanced? But can we say Dark Souls is a good game?
Yeah. So there we go. Yeah, perfect analogy.
This is a thing.
For sure. Okay, so Echo, spelled very interestingly. Is anyone on the team working on another project? Just curious how the game will look after initial release.
So the time of exploitation for Beautiful Light is set to 9 years. This is the goal, the ultimate goal. If we achieve to do this, that would be a perfect dream. That means also the game has work. So what we want is to exploit this game for 9 years. We go a bit greedy for money, so we have DLC planet, and we have also skin microtransaction, only cosmetic, nothing game changer. But the idea is, with Deep World, we don't want to go big as a game studio, like having 300 people working, but go in a decent size, like maximum 100 for the development. And if we have another team, it will be working on a different game. So we have already other projects in mind, but on the development for the moment, the only thing with Planet is like DLC for Beautiful Light. People can say this is a bit early to think about DLC. That will be right. The thing is, like, DLC has not, the production for DLC is not started. It's just like we start the pre-production of it. Pre-production mean like the producer is evaluating the cost and things like this. We try to find the funding. We know, so when we need to start development for it, it will be ready, and we know exactly what we want for it. But yeah, definitely. And if you want the end goal of the studio, for me, there is two end goals. The one is publishing. Like we want to go. If we meet the success, of course, maybe we will crash down next year. But what we want is basically funding games, because we think we are pretty good to predict what game will be a success or not for the moment. And so it's because we are young, basically. If you want, I mean, I think young developer is pretty good to know what is the actual trend of the industry. And when you get older, you start to be
you lose touch,
as we said. Yes. Sorry for all the game developer. I will be one day too, for sure. But I think for the moment, like we want to help some other indie, and also because it's interesting on the business side. And the second thing is like my ultimate dream. This is like the dream of every kid, I think, is like developing MMORPG.
As soon as you said the ultimate dream, I was thinking like, oh, make an MMO. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I was the exact same.
The perfect dream for me will be like to come back with the old MMORPG style, scale, modernized. And if we achieve to do this one day, that will be super cool. But we are very far from this. Yeah.
I have to ask, because I feel like we have to take a moment to talk about that. What kind of MMO would you make? What genre? Is it an FPS? Is it supernatural?
No. That would be definitively probably a medieval RPG. We already know what we want into it. But the thing is, I think MMORPG like the Holy Grail for gaming, but it's too risky. And so you need to have. I think if you want the best MMORPG for me, Star Wars Galaxy, EVE Online, Age of Wulin, this kind of game. EverQuest 2 was fucking great also. But yeah, EVE Online mostly. EVE Online.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're
I'm huge.
You're an open world
MMOs.
PvP kind of guy, right?
Yes.
Etc.
I think the base for MMORPG is like your universe need to be lived by players. It's theme park for me. Sorry for World of Warcraft players. Sorry for World of Warcraft
theme park style. Yeah.
You did an insane job on the lore and stuff like this, but I fucking hate theme park. It's like the death of MMORPG for me. Like you don't create a universe with this. I mean, it's not like you don't create a universe, but this is not what mean MMORPG for me. Like something with EVE Online where players can play for 20 years, bringing politics into it, dynamic market, stuff like this. This is like the perfect, absolute dream, but super hard to do. And for the moment, I know I'm absolutely not ready to handle a project like this. It's like super hard to do, and you need a super strong team. And
the curse. It's the ideal game. It's the absolute nightmare to make, and they are not very profitable because they cost so much to actually create.
I know.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
I know on a project like this, I will probably crash even in 20 years. But I want to try. So we'll see. See you in 20 years, and
we'll have you back. I think the tech is. I think that I could see it happening, man. Like I could see innovations in the next decade or two in the MMO space. I'm not too plugged into it. I don't feel like I'm seeing anything too crazy as far as like core innovations or fundamental changes in MMO design. I agree with you. I think we even talked about it at GDC. I'm one of those guys who likes the Ultima Online, Dark Age of Camelot lineage more so than like the theme park style, which is fine, EverQuest, World of Warcraft. And I think that I could see, because the tech's getting better, because content creation and using creators is like such a big part of advertising games, getting people to play, and how those people like games where you have high investment, right, and depth to the gameplay, whatever. I could see a really innovative MMO coming out within the next decade or so that does things totally differently, or maybe even not that differently. Maybe it's like Star Wars Galaxies again, but like with a different IP. Hell, maybe that Dune MMO is going to be the game, right? And people play that and they'll be like, oh my God, look, it's like part Rust, part MMO, or I don't know. Like, we'll see what they do.
Yeah. Totally think if you look for the Holy Grail, this is this. Like in gaming for just hard.
it takes advantage of all the things that make video games great, right? Or at least one of the things that makes video games great is like multiplayer interactivity, a persistent world, right? There's a lot there.
Ludo narrative, creating moments for players to remember that is driven through play. That is the crux of what I think makes games entertaining. When we're not looking at like narrative driven single player games, the stories that you create through the gameplay systems with your friends is the stuff you will hold on to forever and what makes you want to come back.
Yeah.
That's why games like Eve are so powerful, that we are still talking about things that happened 10 years ago in Eve, right? Of these massive things that happened, and it was all driven through systems that were there to facilitate stories being made by the players, rather than, oh, Garrosh did this one thing in World of Warcraft. And I'm saying this as someone who has like 5k hours in WoW and Guild Wars 2. Like, I love MMOs, but I completely agree with you. Those story-driven moments by players, way more powerful.
I still remember from the fall of Band of Brothers on EVE Online. I still remember of the mother of all the battle of EVE Online, and reading 2 days after on New York Times that the battle happened, and was like, oh, they speak about us, mom, they speak about us. This is something.
So cool.
No, and a lot of friends. I mean, MMORPG is like an insane thing. But however, even if this is like super cool, I think this is one of the two way to do a great video game. You can go the other way with a really fixed narrative story, Death Stranding, and if you do it great, it will be also insane. So that's what I mean.
Again, it's nebulous. Game dev, there's no one way of doing it. There's so many different ways we could go. We've got a question from Speakeasy, which is there a demo that anyone can play of the game yet, or is it just some playtests?
Multiple answer. So we do, not really often, but we do playtest. Like you can access to its random selection on Discord. But soon we will open playtest on Steam playtest. With much larger people, and more we approach to the release of the game, more bigger will be and more sooner will be playtest. We follow dark and darker way to do things. I think this is the best way to handle your release, is basically doing a playtest, stop it, doing development, iterate, etc., redo a playtest until the release. And second thing, before the release of the game, so probably 1 week before, we'll do an open beta for everybody of 3 days. And so everybody will be able to test the game before buying it. We don't do pre-order specially for this. This is a very... people can refund game. So don't lie to it. Like, offer to test the game before, so people can, before buying it, avoid the frustration to like, oh, I pay for a game, but my computer cannot run it. Or it's not what I like, and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And by this way, you avoid, I think, so many issues. So let players.
It's like a trial period. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so honest with your audience. Like, hey, this, because a lot of people would be like, oh, well, let's not do that because then people might buy it, think it's not for them, but then maybe keep it because they don't want to go through the refund process or whatever. But you're like, no, try it. No. If you like it, go forward. And if not, you're fine.
What happened? If someone tests your game and doesn't like it, but it was free, you will say, okay, I didn't like it. Maybe we'll say something on Steam and say, this game is shit. End of the thing. He will leave. What happens if someone buy your game and doesn't like it at all? He will do the same thing, then refund on Steam, then drop a comment on your game and say, your game is a shit, put a negative review, stuff like this. And you can even, if you start even to lie to your players, it will become personal, you know? Like they will start a vendetta against you. Just don't do that. Like,
just avoid it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, provide, you are confident in your game, provide the ability to test. And this is all. And I don't lie, we will have performances issue, server will crash at the release, there will be massive bug everywhere, people will be burning probably for the dev team, and this is all. Welcome in game dev.
The way it is. It's the way it is. Yeah, 100%. All right, we got a donation from Dark Jackal, $5. Thank you so much, Dark Jackal. It says, hey team, thanks for the chat. I thought about asking about your favorite holiday food, but instead, what is your favorite game about food or cooking?
This is not a. This isn't like maybe an interesting answer, but shit. The cooking and the food in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom specifically. Ooh, man. Appetizing. I can't. And then I guess a close second, maybe even a tie, would be Dave the Diver. Like when I play Dave the Diver, I want to go out and get sushi. Like, which shouldn't be a surprise, right? But like, wow, it's such a tasty looking game. I think those would be my two answers.
Okay. I think mine is Monster Hunter World. It's not necessarily about cooking, but like you having your meals prepped before each hunt is like a ritual, and it gives you buffs. And choosing what specific dish you want and stuff, and the animations, like the Monster Hunter World cooking makes me so hungry. Like I'm getting it shipped to me now that I'm in the States, but I had a beautiful watercolor of the palicos cooking and like all of the food because painting, because it's just like it's so gorgeous. I'm really looking forward to Monster Hunter Wild's cooking animations just because I love them so much. They're so cool.
Fuck yeah.
Dofus, you know Dofus?
What's it called?
No.
It's a French MMORPG from Ankama Games. Very now in French and probably in Europe. Maybe less for you. But
Dofus. Okay, I'm seeing
Dofus,
it now. Yeah.
yes. And cooking your breeds, and then sell it on the market.
There we go.
Best plan. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It's like
I love
this
cooking in games.
in MMORPG, it's like when you can sell what you have done, like you have this true feeling of accomplishment,
Oh yeah. The crafting, it's the best part. I think that's something World of Warcraft really got wrong, is its whole crafting system. Like I think Guild Wars 2 does it a bit better in the sense of like refining ores and like getting all of that stuff increases the sell value and requiring specific things. I want to make a video on this. The way Guild Wars 2 manages its economy and making it player driven is absolutely fascinating. I got to sit down and talk to the devs and how they did that a while back. MMO economies are something else. Like they're absolutely wild. And like Eve
Online, yes. That's what I was about to say. Eve Online economy is Darkfall, if you remember.
Darkfall.
Yeah, played Darkfall.
You remember this game? Yeah. Economy
that game was a fucking trip, man.
Oh man,
yeah,
so cool.
I mean, we were speaking about moments and in a MMORPG. I remember one day, massive battle. I don't even know what the fuck I was doing here, but I was with my mates, and we were sitting at the top of a huge tree. And below us, there is maybe 1,000 players, something like it was running 2 FPS.
Oh my
and
God.
They fight for hours and hours and hours. And when you die in the Darkfall, you lose your armor and stuff like this. And at the end of the battle, like when mostly everybody was dead, me and my mate, we were scavenging dead bodies, bringing it as much as possible.
That's so cool.
And we sell it.
I love that.
Was so cool. I remember this moment, like 20 years, maybe 15 years. In my head, like even if it was yesterday, so super cool.
And
thing.
like dropping armor, that system allowed for you to have that memory. Like I love that, like these decisions of like you drop armor can completely change so many aspects of the game.
Absolutely.
Someone in the chat says a very Greek name, Georgios Fotopoulos, says Darkfall. I think this game made by Greek devs, and to that I can say, yes, it was. It's one of the few games that I know of that was actually made by a Greek developer. I really don't know very many, and that game was there were like proper sieges, like hours long. Maybe even multi-day sieges of cities and stuff. It took advantage. It was like it had like tons of problems for sure, and there were a lot of reasons to not play it. But overall, it was a wild game, and it was very much again from that lineage of like the parts of MMOs that we're all talking about that are special and great about MMOs. Darkfall at least attempted to have a lot of those things and succeeded in a lot of them, and it created a lot of those great moments. The sieges 100%. Were insane. I remember as an early player, I think it was actually more than 20 years ago at this point, or maybe 15. Yeah, I think you were right. It was probably like 15.
That's so awesome.
I just remember that a very smart thing. Like to buy the game, you need to go on a website, and only like 5,000 people can buy the game each day because there was too many players. And it creates so enormous queue just to buy the game. Everybody wanted to play Darkfall at this moment, and it was super great marketing decision when I think about it.
That's really cool.
It's also for the queue, I think, because the server capacity was not here, but super cool. Like create a lot of thing.
Hype, exclusivity.
Yeah. Maybe a bit. It's not dark pattern at all, but I don't have the word in English. Maybe not shady. No,
not
forget.
shady, but
it's not shady at all.
different.
It's not shady at all. Yeah, different.
Okay.
Yeah, it's ballsy to do this, basically.
Oh, super ballsy. That can backfire real quick, but clearly didn't. It clearly worked, right? Because my friend got in. Oh my god! Like I can't believe you got a copy. Oh, and then that drums up more hype of like you wanting to do it, and then that just it spreads. It's like word of mouth through exclusivity. Like that's crazy.
I think, and it's funny because at least part of it is born out of necessity, right? Like we just can't take this many players, but wait, this kind of works to our advantage in this marketing sense, yada yada.
Yeah, but all other studio, if they should take the same decision, will allow players to buy the game, but put a queue system.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Which just feels bad, right? Like,
which is bad. Like I don't know what is the best decision, but that was interesting.
I think it works. The whole queue system to buy the game on the website would have worked perfectly back then. I think if you tried something like that now, I feel like it would struggle quite a lot, and they'd be like, "Why isn't there a queue system?" But I don't know. I hope a game does it again because I'd love to see how that does. Because I really like that.
Can I bounce something someone said in the chat?
Yeah, go for it, man.
I just hate when people asking for solo content in a MMO, man. And I will say something. A lot of people who is asking for Beautiful Light PvE only version.
Yeah.
A lot. Like, and we will probably release like a PvE version at some point because there is a huge demand for this. But that's bad for dev when you develop a game, and people is asking for something else. Like there's plenty of game, and even if you look for a PvE Beautiful Light, go for SCP 5K. They do an insane job on this. Like it will be much better than what we can offer on it. And this is pretty funny that some players, like some others say, "Oh no, again an extraction shooter." No one forced you to buy it. Like if you don't like extraction, just don't go. There's many other game for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely. I hate this too. Personally.
Play it. Like part of me kind of gets it, but I do agree with the sense of there's so many other games that you could be playing rather than.
Yeah.
I saw it a lot in WoW, like the end game content, like raiding and like Mythic Plus dungeons. People complaining that they have to play with other people, and it's like that. This is what this game is designed for. Like
exactly.
Go and you might be paying monthly
something else, right?
Yeah. This is like we want a PvU in Beautiful Light. Yes, I understand this, but my whole game has been designed with PvP in mind. If we just add I for PvP, it will be boring, dude. Like it's not the core of the game. So I understand you need it, but this is not what we're offering. So don't ask for it.
Yeah. I think that's
designed for it.
That's one of the downfalls of like speaking as someone who does like World of Warcraft. I think one of the downfalls they had when they had their big slump was trying to facilitate other types of players that weren't their core audience, of being like, oh, we're adding a battle pet system, so it's like Pokemon. We're adding, a player housing system, so you can just exist in your player housing. And it's like, imagine if that development time was put towards making more multiplayer content, like more battlegrounds for PvP, more dungeons, more, raids. For the audience that actually want to be there, right? Rather than trying to facilitate other audiences that don't want to be there, and they're like, "Oh, please come play our game." It's like, no, just make the core thing better.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you can access to this request, I mean, I think at some point I would like to do a PvC thing for Beautiful Light, but if we do it, we will not choose the extraction formula. Like for me, it's not really working for an extraction shooter.
Yeah.
An extraction shooter is basically it's based on a battle royale when this gear fear to lose. This is what gives you this adrenaline peak, basically, when you are fighting you want. And once you are reaching Tarkov, you lost this. Let's not lie. It starts to be kinderboring, I would say.
Yeah.
I kind of disagree. While I agree the tension and the true vision of an I shouldn't say true vision. The tension of an extraction shooter is at its highest when you have that player risk, right? For sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the vision that you're describing makes perfect sense for that. But I had a ton of fun playing DMZ in rounds where I didn't see a single player. And I think you can still have that tension. You can still have that investment. It worked in DMZ, I think, because you had a lot of situations where all these different missions are popping and each one is fun. And then you go and fight this boss over here. And then you go do this high risk mission over here. And of course, players were involved in DMZ. But even in those rounds where I didn't see one, I found myself having fun.
But
so
was
the
it
tension
because
is lower,
there was was it because there was the risk of seeing one? Like there was the possibility. Was that part of it?
I think that contributed to it, but I wouldn't say that was
like the driving
necessary.
force.
Like I could still have fun with it. It's hard to say because I'm thinking now. What are some PvE extraction shooters that are like released now, not in early access? Sorry,
Red River.
Is that released? I thought that was early access.
It's released. It's early access. But you are 100% right. I misspoken a bit, if it's correct to say this. What I mean is for Beautiful Light, like it wouldn't make sense to make PvE mods as the game is based with this PvP anomaly. If we go for a PvE thing in Beautiful Light, we will do something like a very scenarized action, like a campaign, something like this. This totally.
Yeah.
I think it will fit the universe. It will also bring. If we do a PvE mod, it's just not. It should not be like a game mod. It should be like something
for
with a
sure.
true edition.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Completely agree.
To be clear, I just mean an abstract. I don't mean for Beautiful Light. Yeah.
No, but this is my feeling about it. But there is not a good or bad vision of video game, to be honest. I mean, do your own stuff and we'll see if it works or not, basically. But the thing is, like for Beautiful Light, if we want to add PvE, it will be PvE, it will be like with a scenario. And as always,
it'll be deliberate.
We want to see also too big, as always. So like with actors and stuff like this, cutscene. Something with polish, not just like, okay, we remove the PvP side, enjoy the game. Like, it doesn't make sense for me.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. Keep that vision
Thanks.
so you can keep things polished. Fucking awesome. All right. So we're a bit over free here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my foot down and say, hey, lads, this has been such a wonderful conversation, but I think we're done, because I could sit here with you all day, Aherys. Like, I absolutely love hearing about how you're running your company. I think it's so inspiring, and I think a lot of people should be taking notes, because I think we could create such a better culture within game dev by trying to follow these metrics.
Yes, thank you so much. But one thing was very important. We got massive, super good comment like you, but for the month we didn't did anything. Like, we just got huge number of wish lists. And I take your what you said, super thank for this, but we want to prove first. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
if the game is
that's
good,
the good attitude.
Yeah,
that's a great attitude.
If the game is good, I come back in 2026, and I will take your comment and say, yes, I'm a boss, but it's not done, and the game is maybe not fun. We don't even know ourselves. You cannot know if your game is really fun before it's released and have 1 year old or something like this. And people come back to the game and think, yes, it was fun. This is when you know.
I respect that. I respect that for sure.
All game development is risk, right? As I said earlier, you're taking the risks as smartly as possible. You're taking the right risks, and you're looking at other risks that you don't need to take and saying, we're not going to do that. We're going to do these. Everything you're in a good position. You're poised for success. It's going to be up to the market and luck and all these other things. And that's fine. That's just how it is. So that you have this mindset, that kind of humility is great, because it puts you even in a better position to be poised for success. That's all great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Beautiful. So do you want to plug your streams, dude? Where can people find you if they want to watch along?
Twitch.tv/Aherys, AHERYS.
Yeah,
you got
Eric, if you're able to, I think Eric can post a link in chat, so we'll have that.
I can write it.
Beautiful.
For the game, you can write Beautiful Light on Google or Steam. You will find it pretty easily, I think.
I think most of them already will, but if you haven't, guys, go wishlist the game if it interests you.
Thank
and
you,
also follow Aherys over on Twitch. You can follow along the development and be a rubber duck. Ain't that great, guys? You can be the rubber duck.
Wow, how
No,
exciting. How empowering. Yeah.
And if you, just a thing, I'm very accessible on Twitter or on Discord. So if you have any question about the game, you can come on our Discord. We have moderating team who can answer to all your questions. But even myself on Twitter, you can tag me. I will probably answer most of the time. So feel free, or come to the stream and say, hey, it will be a pleasure.
Argue with him. Go argue with him about anti-cheat.
Go argue.
Tell him how it is. Be a player who's smarter than the dev.
Oh my god. Bloody hell. All right, beautiful. So for here at Second Wind, yeah, thank you so much, guys. We've been on a bit of our Christmas break. This was our first stream podcast of 2025. We'll be back with our usual programming on Monday, where you can expect a bunch of stuff. Again, apologies for the delay on the Design Delve episode from the 27th. You'll be getting it on the 10th instead of the best game design of 2024, in my opinion. But other than that, yeah, I guess that's everything from us. So from here, everyone here at DevHeads, thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye, guys. See you.